kind of random.
What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Hip Hop Now Podcast Reviews. I am your host, Vegas, host of the weekly podcast, Hip Hop Now Podcast. Big shout out to the producers of this podcast over at patreon.com/hiphopnow. So here we are. Surprise, surprise. We just got done talking about our best of 2021 so far as it relates to hip hop. And we get a new Nas album. Now, just for context, if you're listening to this episode in the future, right? The climate right now was Kanye West is having a second listening party. At the time, he was having one listening party, but he had wound up having two. Drake is teasing his album every 5 minutes. We're still waiting on other albums, right? Like Black Star and stuff like that. And wondering, when we gonna get that Kendrick Lamar. Last year, 2020, we got Nas and Hit Boy's first album together called King's Disease. Really, an album that was really shaped around the concept of King's Disease. You can check out the album, he explains all of it. But this was a return to form from Nas and King's Disease. The album was all over the NBA Finals, right? Not because of popularity. We know how that get down, Just somebody was smart and they got it in there. But the thing is Nas also won his first Grammy for Hip Hop Album of the Year for 2020 for King's Disease. And I reviewed that album last year. You can check out the review. It's on the same streamline and on the same channel if you're watching this on YouTube or the B-Roll Network. But this was the thing, y'all, like, it was the first time, to me, before King's Disease, it was the first time that Nas had returned to me to the type of hip hop he should be making at this point in his career. Like, King's Disease was the albums we should hear, but the main thing is the first album I had that thought was Life is Good. I said to myself, when I heard Life is Good, I was like, this is the type of albums Nas should make going forward, because you're getting everything. You know what I'm saying? You're getting who he is today. You're not looking for Illmatic Nas, you're getting who he is today. And King's Disease, coming in after the failure of Nasir with Kanye West, which was so surprising to many of us, because if there was anyone who could probably work with Nas and have a dope sound, it would be Kanye, but that was a failed attempt. Then we got the Lost Tapes 2. Everybody was hyped for that based off of the Lost Tapes 1, and a lot of those songs should have stayed lost. So after those two, and then those two attempts at Nas dropping something new, and people feeling like, here we go again with the cycle of whack stuff. King's Disease, him working with Hit Boy, expectations were all over the place for most people. But it turned out to be dope, and so dope that I had it in my top 5 of 2020. So here we are in 2021. Hit Boy and Nas are right back, running it right back for the summer. King's Disease 2, and I'm here to tell you, it's going to bump something that's in my top 5 right now. It just is. I'm not even going to hold you. This album is better than the first one. And sometimes when you say that, people say, oh, if they've never heard King's Disease 1, oh, so I shouldn't listen to the first one. No, you should. Because it was dope. But it's different. This album, even though it's a sequel, it's an extension of that album. It's almost like required listening, right? Because you might come into this album and say, well, What's King's Disease? Go listen to the first album. You get that, you know what I'm saying? But King's Disease 2, man, it was a surprise that it was even coming out. I don't think a lot of people knew. It was announced like a week in advance. The first single really didn't drop until the album dropped, along with the video. The first single being a song called Rare. The album itself is 15 songs deep and 15 songs. Not when sometimes I say, yo, it's 15 tracks or 21 tracks, but there's like skits in there. No, this is straight up 15 songs of Nas, 52 minutes in total. Not a lot of your time, just about under an hour. Features include A Boogie with the Hoodie, YG, Eminem, EPMD, Lauryn Hill, Charlie Wilson. First, somebody named Bliss. I think I've heard of this, but I think they're fairly new, so I'm not sure. And Hit Boy. And not only, does he make beats, he also raps. 15 songs, and again, what I like the most about King's Disease 2, and again, when I talked about King's Disease 1 and Life is Good, I think it strengthens the point I made earlier. This is what Nas should be doing. He should be embracing the past and embracing the future. I feel like albums like this, you get Nasty Nas, you get Escobar, right? You get Esco. You get King's Disease Nas, you get Stillmatic Nas, you get Life is Good Nas. Like, you get all these different looks and feels, lyrically, musically. Hit Boy is just the perfect producer for Nas at this stage. I'm gonna tell you like this. I don't want a DJ Premier in Nas album no more. The time for that was years ago. The time for that was years ago. Nowadays, nah. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. Let's say they wanted to do 3 songs, a 4-song EP, I take that. But as far as a whole album and how we used to feel like we wanted that, now we do not want that. Because Hit Boy knows how to produce Nas. See, there's a difference between beat makers and producers. Beat makers can give you some heat that they made, and that's the end of the production, right? Producers not only will make dope beats, but in a lot of cases, they will also craft the beats around the songs you make, right? But also direct you and direct the entire production of the record. And again, I said it before when I reviewed King's Disease. We heard Nas on trap beats, in particular a song he had with, he had the song with Future, and he didn't sound good at all. He sound offbeat, he sound uncomfortable. 2 albums with Hit Boy, and Nas sounds perfect on trap style beats. So let's get into the album, right? Because as you know, I already like it enough to put it in my top 5 of the year so far. Who's to say a couple of albums come out and don't bump it? That remains to be seen into the end of the year. But nevertheless, a well-produced album from top to bottom. Hats off to Hit Boy. The album starts off with a song called Pressure, which I think sets the tone. For me personally, it doesn't blow the doors off you as far as like a music fan, like, yo, this song is so incredible. But it does its job in setting the tone of the album. Death Row East is unpredictable because you read the title and then you hear the beat and then you're almost confused because you're kind of expecting something a little bit more rugged. But what's dope about this record is the fact that it talks about Nas's relationship with Tupac in '96 in the heat of the East Coast West Coast beef, including them coming face to face. Like, you always hear the stories about when Nas had his crew and Pac had his crew and it was about to go down. You've heard all these different stories, but you never heard it from Nas, right? Obviously, rest in peace, Tupac. You're not gonna hear from him. But it was already verified, actually, before this came out, that it was peace towards the end of that, right? And now you hearing it from Nas is pretty dope, and knowing that he was out there, in particular in Vegas, I believe, the day Tupac died, at a party with, I believe, at the end is a snippet of Eric B. Who some who may not know, right? This is Eric B. from Eric B. and Rakim, but he also was the head of Death Row East. So, masterful way to address a topic that everyone has been talking about, that includes you as a major player, but you decide to take the time to say, let's talk about it. Just dope. The way it was executed was perfect. A couple of standouts on this album for me personally. EPMD 2. I really thought EPMD was only going to get a hook. They got a couple of bars, which I thought was dope. My first thought when I saw that Eminem was on here was like, Nas' verse got to be right. Because the trolls will say, oh, Eminem murdered you on your own. That's what was going to happen. But it got to the point where, because Eminem rhymed last, I almost forgot Eminem was on it because Nas's verse was dope. But Eminem starts to rhyme, and I'm not going to front. When he started out, I was kind of like, here go M again, being on a record where he should just kill it, and he being too technical, and now it's throwing it off because it doesn't go with the beat. But as his verse goes on, and you see all the naming of the hip hop legends in the game and the wordplay, you just say to yourself, like, wow, just another display for Eminem to plant his flag. And I know there's some people, they're never gonna like Eminem. They're never gonna like Eminem. Eminem could be saying everything they wanted. Eminem could be black. Well, if he was black, it'd be different. But Eminem is about wordplay. I think that's what some people don't get sometimes, because they concentrate so heavy on the content and relating to the content that they don't realize that he's not like Nas, right? Nas is the content. You mess with what he's saying. EPMD is their content, but Eminem is kind of in that lane of the Pharoah Monches, the MF Dooms, right? It's about word play. What can you do with these words? How can you flip them? How can you put different schemes and all that good stuff in your rhymes? And I thought he did a dope job. Again, it started off and I was kind of like, And then by the time he was done with his verse, I was like, yo, that was dope. Another record I like the single Rare. I think the video threw me off because I didn't hear the song first. I watched the video. And the video's really abstract. And it, the dope part about the video I do like, because I was around during that time, is it reminds me of like music videos for house records in the 90s. Like when you look at the video, that's what it reminds me of. Because sometimes they were kind of weird, and you're looking like, what the hell is going on? You know what I'm saying? But I for me personally, that wasn't the way to hear that single for the first time. That's probably what I should have did after I listened to the album. But nevertheless, I dig the record. YKTV with A Boogie with the hoodie and YG is a dope joint. To me, that's clearly the record without sounding like a fake part two, but that's clearly the spicy single for the summer. I don't mean spicy as in spicy, but if you listen to King's Disease 1, Spicy was kind of like summer anthem for 2020. I know that doesn't sound right considering the pandemic and all of that in 2020, but we were still living off of that. Another record that's dope, Store Run. You get a little bit more classic Nas on that. Moments is really dope. I really love that record. Love the music, what Nas is saying. Nobody featuring Lauryn Hill. Man, you want to talk about showing up. You want to talk about showing up. Like, I did when I saw that Lauryn Hill was on this album, I was like, cool. But if anybody who's ever paid attention, you could tell that Nas and Lauryn Hill have always had this cool relationship. So for her to show up on his album, I wasn't as surprised as most. But who knows how long he probably requested the feature 10 years ago. And now she's showing up. But she addresses being late. But this is the thing. When I saw Lauryn Hill was going to be featured on his album, I thought she was singing. I was like, oh, he got Lauryn to sing the hook? Nah, Lauryn Hill is rhyming. And for those who don't know, it becomes pretty clear why a lot of people, without her having a full-on hip-hop album, consider her to be top 5 female MCs of all time. Lauryn Hill was that dope, and still is, apparently. No Phony Love with Charlie Wilson. Y'all know I like to get my two-step on. I don't think I like Brunch on Sundays. I feel like it's a filler record. Not to say that's what they did purposely, but I'm pretty sure people who go to Brunch, because Brunch is like become new again to a lot of people, right? And I can see a smart DJ playing that, right? And don't get me wrong, it's cool, but I was listening to it. I gave it my gym test, and I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Count on Me is pretty dope. Composure featuring Hit Boy is cool. I really like My Bible. It's almost like a motto record, right? You know, this is who I am. This is what I stand for type record. For Nas in 2021. And the last record, Nas Is Good, is dope because it's just like, again, it's like, it's called Nas Is Good, but it feels like life is good too. Unfortunately, when you're a celebrity, especially in the hip hop game, people get bits and pieces of your life and interpret your mentality, interpret your life in a lot of ways, and really don't know. And I like records like this because they really plant the flag. Like a person who wants to interpret your life to be negative, or you to be broke, or shook, or whatever way they want to characterize what they think they know about you, they can't avoid records like this, because records like this kind of shut down those conversations, similar to Death Row East. So all in all, I think King's Disease 2 is a slam dunk, a home run, a touchdown, whatever you want, knockout, whatever you want to call it. Hit Boy stock is just going through the roof because his beats are not just about being dope beats, but being more of a crafted sonic experience that was tailor-made for Nas. Like, Hit Boy is like a tailor in this regard, especially for Nas. He's just finding ways to capitalize off of this man's legacy and how he sounds, and nurturing all of those important parts about somebody like Nas, a legendary MC like Nas, and giving you something new. And it's extended Nas's career as an MC tremendously. Like, tremendously. It's been a while since we had back-to-back dope Nas albums. It just has. Illmatic, it was written, right? 2 dope albums. 2 classics, I say that easily. But then you had I Am and Nostradamus. You know how that went. I Am was okay. Nostradamus was garbage. Then we had Stillmatic and Godson. 2 really dope albums, right? Back to back. So if you go down Nas's catalog, which I'm probably gonna do tier list for Nas's catalog soon. But if you go down Nas's catalog, it got to a point, especially later in his career, where it was like a hit or miss thing, right? The N-Word album, Untitled, didn't really live up to expectations. Hip Hop Is Dead didn't really live up to expectations, but then Nas came back with Life Is Good. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things. Nasir came out, didn't live up to expectations. Lost Tapes 2 didn't live up to expectations. And then you got King's Disease and King's Disease 2. I also left out Street's Disciple, but that also didn't live up to people's expectations. So all in all, Nas is on top. Nas and Hit Boy are winning. And it's really dope to have this album in 2021 and celebrate it and have it be such a dope album that sets the bar. So honestly, when I think about like the best, obviously I would pick 5. But Tyler the Creator is that same feeling of this is hip hop, but it's all the other things that are popular without sounding too cheesy or compromising the integrity of the art. That's going to do it for me for this episode. Please check out my podcast every week called Hip Hop Now Podcast, which is available wherever you listen to podcasts. All you have to do is go to your favorite podcasting app. It doesn't matter if that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. All you have to do is in the search bar, type in the words Hip Hop Now Podcast. Hit the subscribe button. Stay locked into weekly hip hop news, content, and perspectives. Until next time, y'all, I am not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace.
Drop it on the random.